Hello Year 6, Miss Tansley here. I'm going to introduce to you a new English topic over this video, hopefully, and I can get everything to work. I need to read part of a text to you for you to be able to access today's learning, and unfortunately the book that we'd like to look at this time isn't on your Kindles. So where possible, I'll either share audio files with you or read the excerpt itself from the book, but I've also popped some of the pages on some of the Google Slides each day so that you can follow it clearly to aid you with your lessons. So hopefully I can share my screen with you now and you will be able to see our new presentation. So here we go. Let me just present this for you. And you should be able to see now the front cover of this book here, which is called The Silver Donkey by Sonia Hartnett. This is the book that we are going to focus on over the next few weeks for our English lessons. And it also links to our spring term topic of looking at some of the world wars. So fingers crossed you'll really enjoy it. I know Mrs. Simmons and I and last year's Year 6s really did enjoy it. It was the first time we'd studied this book, so I'm excited to be able to teach it again for you. So the first thing I'd like you to do today is to just have a look at the picture that you can see on the screen. And when you leave this video and go off to the Google Slides, you can go backwards and forwards between them, pausing this video and answering the different sections on the slides to complete today's learning. The picture on the front there has certain colours. If you can see from my video, it is sparkly. It shines in a different way in the light there. So it's not just a flat white colour, it's actually silver to link to the title there. I'd just like you to have a little look and an analyse and think about what you think this story might be about, okay? What it might be about, thinking of reasons that give you that bit of inspiration as to potentially the significance of perhaps characters or patterns or colours, those sorts of things that you can see. So when you've had a little think about that and it's in your mind, you should then be able to go over to the Google slide and see that your next slide looks something like this, okay? And your first task is to pop some of those ideas down, typing them into the table that you can see on the first slide that I've popped on there for you. Remembering full sentences, all your capital letters and full stops. Just because we're typing on a computer, we don't need to be a bit lazy about it. Really impressed Mrs. Simmons and I with the standard and quality of work that we know you can do. So you've got question 1. What does the illustration on the cover suggest about the story? So it's just, what does it suggest about this book? Okay, so I'd like you to answer that question, type your answers in. Question 2, what stories do you know that involve any donkeys? They might be famous stories, they might be ones you've seen on the telly, they might be historical stories, biblical stories, all sorts of different things. Is there anything else that you know that might have donkeys, farm animals, those sorts of things in? You might not know any. Maybe this is your opportunity to do some research and find out a little bit more about some. And finally, thinking about where that donkey is placed on that front cover, do we think it's significant in any way, shape or form, and what part the donkey might play in this particular text on any kind of familiarities from previous stories that you might know? Do we think the donkey is going to be the main character, a side character, and what role they might have? So take the time to pause this video at this point, go away, answer those questions. And when you're ready, you can come back and I'm going to read a little section of the text to you. So I will carry on with the reading now, but feel free to go away and come back and catch up with this lesson as and when you're ready. Okay. The next section of the text comes from chapter 1, and this is what you need for the next part of the story. You can follow along on the screen or you can just listen yourself should you wish. Okay. Chapter 1. The Soldier in the Trees. One cool spring morning in the woods close to the sea, 2 girls found a man curled up in the shade and immediately guessing he must be dead, ran away shrieking delightedly, clutching each other's hands. As they ran, they shouted to one another all sorts of horrors and secrets. "I think his ghost is chasing us," screamed the elder. "I'm sorry I broke your dolly's arm," howled the smaller one. Okay. That's the only part I'm going to read to begin with. And again, you can flick back between those 2 slides reading that excerpt that I've just shared with you. And I'd like you to have a look at these following questions today on this Tell Me grid and give me some reasons in each box about the opening of the story. So you might need to go back, look at it again, refresh, revisit. Do you like it? Is there anything particularly that you like about that opening of the story? Give your reasons, your dislikes, give some reasons. What puzzles you about what we've read in that opening? Is it a bit of a strange opening? Does it give much away? Are there any questions that it raises? And are there any other stories that you know of or have come across that you could make connections to that have similarities perhaps with what we've just read? So your next task is to pause the video again and go away and fill in this grid. Welcome back. You should have finished that task now. And the final part of today's lesson is just for me to read to the end of the chapter with you. And I hope you enjoy. So I'll go back to the beginning and I'll read the opening and go through to the end of the chapter. The soldier in the trees. One cool spring morning in the woods close to the sea, two girls found a man curled up in the shade and immediately guessing he must be dead, ran away shrieking delightedly, clutching each other's hands. As they ran, they shouted to one another all sorts of horrors and secrets. "I think his ghost is chasing us," screamed the elder. "I'm sorry I broke your dolly's arms," howled the smaller one. The elder stopped, jerking her sister to a halt. "I knew it was you who broke Villette's arm," she cried. "You liar! You pretended you didn't. I've told you not to touch my things." The little girl clamped her mouth shut and wished she hadn't said anything. Her eyes glided up the slope down which they'd both just run. "The ghost might be coming," she said hopefully. Her sister, remembering the dead man, looked back the way they had come. The hill's brow was covered in thin birch and fat elms, and the grass sprinkled below the trees was long and brightly green. Now she'd caught her breath and recovered from the surprise, she realized it was thrilling to have discovered a dead man. No one at her school had ever found somebody dead. Her brother, Pascal, certainly never had. He would be livid to hear of his sisters doing something so marvelous while he, the eldest child and the only boy, had sat in front of the fireplace eating cinnamon toast. The older girl, whose name was Marcel, imagined her brother's face when he heard the news. She brimmed suddenly with anticipation and glee. Although much depended, of course, on the man in the forest actually being dead, it would be embarrassing to fly home shouting that there was a dead man in the woods when the man was, in fact, only sleeping. And now she had caught her breath and begun to feel the cold. Marcel reflected that the man had indeed looked equally asleep as dead. There was nothing for it but to march back to the woods and have a closer look. The mystery must be solved. The facts must be set straight. The smaller girl, whom everyone called Coco, squeaked when she realized where her sister was leading her. She dug her heels into the dirt. "Don't make me," she whimpered. "I'm frightened." "You are not," growled her sister, and Coco had to privately admit this was true. Nothing ever frightened her. "Besides, we must," Marcel commanded stoutly. "What if Pascal finds him and pretends he found him first?" Coco knew that this mustn't happen. Pascal always spoiled everything. She hastened up the hill after her sister. In a moment they were racing. The wet grass grabbed their shins and slipped their boots. They slid and stumbled on slimy stones. Their breath came out in cloudy puffs. They had forgotten completely their mother's request to pick an apronful of mushrooms to feed the pig. They giggled and clambered as fast as they could, but as they reached the forest's edge, the sisters slowed from a run to a walk, and when the forest's grim shadow draped over them and the air became grey and chilly with mist, they slowed from a walk to a creep. They lowered their feet carefully, trying not to make a sound, and as they approached the hollow where the man lay, they were aggrieved to spy him sitting up. Clearly he was not dead. And although they had crept as quietly as they could, and kept themselves hidden behind tree trunks and weeds, the sharp-eared man must have heard, for he looked up from the fallen leaves and stared directly at them. That's the first chapter, Year 6, and I hope you're able to finish the 2 tasks from today's English lesson and keep the chapter in mind, ready for what you will be expected to do tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed the start of the story. Please remember that tomorrow it could be a video or it might just be an audio clip over the next few days, depending on what we manage to get sorted for you. But fingers crossed, you're going to really enjoy our new text. Don't forget to turn your work in when you've completed. Thanks very much, everyone. See you soon.